Hey, Mama. Welcome back to the Mom Walk Collective podcast. I'm Savannah.
And I'm Ari, and we are two moms just trying to navigate through motherhood. But today we are three. We have Karen joining us. We also have Savannah. So let me just do a quick intro. Savannah is joining the team, and so she will be making appearances on the podcast as well. Jamie has taken the day off, and so we are going to have Savannah and I leading this podcast. But we're super excited because we have Karen here. And Karen actually is our ambassador who kicked off Geneva, Illinois while she was living in Illinois for 2 months. And now she's coming back to Newport Beach, California, and will be taking over that walk soon. So, Karen, can you introduce yourself, share a little bit about Banks, your husband, what you do, and anything about your motherhood journey that you just want to kick off this conversation with?
Okay. So my name is Karen, but I'm a nice Karen. I always have to say that. We got a bad reputation. I have a 1.5-year-old named Banks. I am married. I've been with my husband for about 5 years, and we survived the pandemic, and that's when I got pregnant.
Oh,
yeah.
Spicy.
I think that happened to a lot of people.
Yeah. A lot of cuddles at home.
Yeah, a lot of Netflix and chill. So about my pregnancy. Well, I guess I'll start off by saying that it was a little unexpected, and obviously I'm very happy and grateful that it did happen, but it was something that it wasn't planned. I had really bad anxiety, and I guess the birth control that I was taking was just making me go a little crazy. So I decided to take a break, and I started using an app to track my cycle. And that didn't work because I ended up being pregnant 2 months after getting off birth control. So it was a bit of a shock for me. Obviously, I'm very blessed that I was able to get pregnant, but I was very shocked because I thought I was doing everything right. I was focusing on my mental health and on just getting healthy and balancing my hormones, and my story changed. I ended up with Banks. And yeah, it was a little hard on me. So I guess that's something I kind of wanted to talk about. And I wanted to talk about body image, and I was struggling a lot with body dysmorphia and social media, looking at unrealistic expectations of what women look like nowadays. So it affected me a lot, seeing my belly grow. And I feel really kind of bad about it now because, pregnancy is a beautiful thing, but it just didn't feel that way when I was pregnant. I felt very icky, and not to mention I was very sick the first 3 months. So it was like, I couldn't eat. I couldn't even drink water. I was like, I went to urgent care a couple times, and it was just like, it was very hard.
Yeah, I can imagine just mentally not being prepared to get pregnant is one thing.
Yeah.
Like thinking that like, hey, I'm going to take a break off of birth control.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to track this. And then, eventually down the road I'll get pregnant, but it's not in my game plan right now.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you're kind of like I don't feel like you're on the type A side, but I also like don't know, maybe you are. But like I can understand like if you are just if you're not planning for that, it can intensify certain feelings. I know for me, I wasn't planning on having twins.
Yeah. Right.
So it intensified finding that out and like laying in bed for a week. Just like, and then I totally understand feeling that sense of guilt.
Yeah.
Of like afterwards. But I also think we have to give ourselves grace with like, we didn't know what we know now, like it's it's quite shocking.
Yeah.
Um, but before we started recording, you were talking about body dysmorphia
Yeah.
and, having dealt with that prior to getting pregnant and then dealing with that as you were pregnant. And can you kind of walk through, like, was that like really spurred through social media and kind of just seeing those like before and afters, seeing like edited images that nobody
Yeah.
knew were edited originally?
Yeah. So I guess it started off with when I found out that I was pregnant, I was actually going through it pretty, like, I was working out and trying to look a certain way. And, um, sorry, I'm like getting emotional. Yeah. So I was working out and I was focusing on getting healthy and what my idea of looking healthy was. And so I was like, probably, having a little bit of like eating disorder and stuff like that at the same time. And then, you know, finding out I was pregnant, it was like, I have to eat. I have to take care of myself. I have to, um, my stomach is going to grow. So I have to just like be okay with that. And I don't have control over, and especially like me, which, I had an idea of how I wanted my life to go. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I love my husband to death. He's my soulmate and I'm very, very happy right now. But at the time, it was like, I wanted us to have a house and I wanted to buy my dream car and I wanted to have this like extravagant wedding and then just, have like I had like a timeline in my head of how I wanted things to go and how I wanted to look, and it was so unrealistic now looking back at it.
Mm.
And so um just not having control was just like it put me in. And also hormones, I was slightly depressed the first 3 months. I was depressed. I was having a hard time eating because of the nausea. um Seeing my body change was pretty rough, and I felt so guilty. Like, when I started feeling him like kick and move, I would literally cry because I'm like, I would think about how like negative I felt about the pregnancy, and I would just feel so sad because it's like, this is something so beautiful and so special, and having negative thoughts, I felt guilty about it. So
Thank you for sharing that
yeah.
so vulnerably,
Yeah.
because I think that's going to relate to a lot of women.
Yeah. And I think so. I think, a lot of people glamorize pregnancy, and everyone has their own journey, everyone has their own thoughts and feelings, and you think that you're supposed to think that way and feel that way about your own body, and you're supposed to experience things the way that you see everyone else experiencing things, and that's not true. And I had to kind of learn that. And after like overcoming all that and like just finally being okay and comfortable with my pregnancy, and honestly, I wasn't happy until after I had him, which is crazy. Um, and it it was actually the day that I had him, and I was like, it sounds kind of cheesy, but I was holding him and I started bawling my eyes out because I was like, how did I ever have a single like negative feeling about being pregnant now that I'm holding you? Like, it was just like, such a relief that I was like done with all that and I had him here. And it was a very difficult process, but I guess the beautiful part of it was just having him. So that's how I can, or how I word it, is like, it was difficult, but it was worth it, 100%. And I would totally do it again, but I would still cry and I would still feel, self-conscious and
Yeah.
I feel
probably.
like it's this like I can relate so much because I feel like when I was pregnant, like I was planning on getting pregnant But I feel like I had that same thought in my head, like all these women post they feel so beautiful being
Yeah.
pregnant, and I felt
Yeah.
like when I was pregnant, I felt huge.
Yeah.
And like looking back at photos, I'm like, okay, I really wasn't that big. But when
Yeah.
you're in the moment, it's so easy to be like, my pants don't fit me anymore. Like, what is happening to my body? And you forget that like that miracle. Like honestly, I'm kind of in the same boat. Like when I had Rue, I felt better like postpartum than I did
Mm.
Yeah.
8 months pregnant.
Right?
I'm like, I'm jiggly, like I can't even cough without things moving. Like, what is happening?
Yeah.
But yeah, I would just say that it's very relatable. And I think a lot of women go into pregnancy thinking, like, oh, I'm going to feel so beautiful. I'm going to love the way my stomach looks. And it's not the reality for everyone. And so I think just telling women that it's okay, like hearing that from you, I'm like, okay, I wasn't crazy when
Yeah.
I felt
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah. I think it's so important for other women to know that it's okay to not be okay. It sounds cheesy during pregnancy because you almost feel ashamed to not be. I felt very ashamed. Like, I didn't want to tell anybody that I was struggling, and I I was depressed. I had really dark thoughts, and I was like, my husband was like my my guardian angel. Like, I would tell him like, hey, this is how I'm feeling, and he's like, it's okay, like it's normal, you're going through so many body changes, you have so many in hormone, like your hormones are going nuts, like you're gonna be okay, it's just temporary. And he would always say, thank you so much for what you're doing. And it was just like, oh my gosh, thank you for reassuring me.
Shout out for good husbands,
Yeah.
because I think that really helps go through that change, because you
100%.
are literally in such a vulnerable state. The hormones, the body changing, the identity shift that goes in, like as you're preparing through pregnancy. I do have a question though, because I find that this, like, I didn't know that this was possible, but at my doctor's office in our bathroom, they had like a poster sharing that, like, postpartum depression, the statistics, postpartum anxiety, the statistics. But then they also shared that people can have like pregnancy depression. They can experience that during it. Did your doctors ever share with you that that might be something you could face?
No. And
No.
I feel like that's important because that can be very dangerous. And obviously, I mean, when you're pregnant, they don't want to give you any medication or anything like that. But if you're at least aware of it, you can talk yourself out of, negative thoughts. Like, it's part of the pregnancy, it's the hormones, like my husband was doing. But I
Yeah.
definitely think doctors should mention that for sure.
Yeah, like almost normalize those feelings,
Yeah.
because like if you don't ever hear somebody else share that they were having a negative experience, then you almost feel like something's
Like
wrong with
something's
you.
wrong with you. And I definitely felt like something was wrong with me. I I felt almost like I wasn't worthy, or I shouldn't have, I didn't deserve to be a mother because I had these negative thoughts. Like, it's so sad, but I mean, obviously I know now that it was just all in my head. And but I feel like there should be this should be talked about because I did post about it on my Instagram, and I was trying to be vulnerable with, like, I had a lot of friends that were pregnant at the time, COVID. And so I made a post about it just to kind of see, like, if anyone felt that way. And I got a lot of really good feedback, and I was kind of scared that I wasn't, or I mean, I don't know, being vulnerable on social media can be a little scary. But
Yeah.
I got a lot of good feedback. A lot of women were like, you're so right, I felt that same way, or this and that. And I was like, oh wow, like, it made me feel good that I wasn't alone. And I got like a couple of messages from other women that were like, yeah, what you said was so right, and blah blah blah. And I'm like, good, because I felt so like negative about it, that kind of,
Mhm.
that's kind of how I overcame like feeling like I was like a bad person or a bad mom for feeling that way. Just having other
Yeah.
people reassure me that they've had those thoughts too.
And I think that's like the beautiful thing about social media, right? Like
Yeah.
there is like a really bad rep for social media, but I think if it's used in the right context and whatnot, like it can connect people. It allowed you to be vulnerable. And that's probably terrifying when you posted of just like, oh God, what am I gonna get back? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you don't know, but I'm so glad that it was well received and that you were able to impact those women to like again help them not feel alone in those feelings, because I think in this day and age, as like we're hearing more women share their story of having infertility issues and walking through that infertility journey, it can cause um people to like be nervous to share their pregnancy journey
Yeah.
if they're pregnant and maybe it wasn't planned, or whatever it may be. Maybe they got pregnant right away, and it's like we should try to be respectful of everybody,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time like be able to like walk through our own journey and then
Yeah.
find the people that can walk through it with us, because either they've gone through it or they're currently going through it.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I think it's really, amazing that you guys are doing this the podcast, because everyone's able to share their own journey. And like you said, it's okay to, be able, I mean, you should be able to share what you're going through. And I think it can be scary because you want to be sensitive to other women, but with having this platform, you know, you're sharing your story, and obviously you're still sensitive, but it's okay to be able to like open up and share your story.
Absolutely. Okay, so you said that you had banks and then you had that moment of like release
Yeah.
and just cried. A lot of women face the um oh, I felt so beautiful during pregnancy, and then afterwards like it was like my belly didn't go back to like being flat like
Yeah.
before, or it didn't go back to like how I'm seeing the celebrities come back.
Yeah.
Um How did you then, like, what was that journey afterwards?
It was hard. It was still very hard. And I mean, I had a C-section, and mommies that I'm sure are listening to this know the scar and the little shelf that we get and all that. So it
Yep.
was all new to me. And before I got pregnant, I felt like I was finally starting to kind of be comfortable in my own skin, even though I wasn't. Like, I don't know. That's what body dysmorphia does to you. You're kind of never happy with yourself. But I I struggled. I still struggled. I still sometimes struggle, but I feel like I tried to get myself out of that rut by um taking care of myself, and
Mm.
not only prioritizing him, but also like making sure that I'm prioritizing myself, trying to, I mean, it's hard trying to eat better, working out, um wearing my uh postpartum garment to keep everything together. um yeah, I mean, yeah, even to this day, sometimes I'll wear like a swimsuit and I see my stretch marks and things like that, and I'm like, those weren't there before. But I mean, it's just talking yourself out of it, and I mean, truly knowing that what you did was incredible, and creating life is not something that, you know, anyone can do really. And
Mhm.
so I just kind of try and think positive whenever I start to feel that way. And like I said, I have my husband who, whenever I'm like, ew, he's like, I love you. And like, he'll kiss my belly and be like, thank
Aw.
you for giving us banks and things like that. And that's very helpful. So,
So
yeah, it's pretty
I
awesome.
literally cry thinking about that. That is
Yeah.
so precious.
Yeah.
He's a fantastic husband.
He really
Um yeah, I mean, I just don't like it is challenging. When you don't see like like postpartum bodies
mm-hmm.
beautified.
Yeah.
Like even last week I was doing something and I was like, "Oh, like I have stretch marks or like can you like cover this?" And it's like, "Oh, we love that," because they wanted to be able to show that and I
Yeah.
was like, "Sounds great. I wish you could show somebody else, not me."
Yeah.
That was the thought going through my head,
Yeah,
but then I was
because
like, "Okay."
everyone's like, oh, you're so, well, the same thing they tell you when you're pregnant. Oh, you look so beautiful. You're glowing. And, or, oh, your stretch marks are beautiful. They're so natural and you look so good natural. But like in reality, you see, all these magazines and like Instagram models that have had babies and you don't see a single stretch mark on them. Like, I think I gave birth like shortly after that supermodel Emily Reg, I forgot, Emerald, I don't know. But
Oh, I
I was
know the
looking,
last name. It's hard to
yeah, I was
pronounce.
looking at her photos and I was still pregnant and I'm like, wow, she looks so good. It was so toxic for me to look at her photos. And I was like, oh, I can't wait to like look like that and like hold my baby all cute like this and all this stuff. And of course, like I had this like giant cut across my stomach and like stitches and like I didn't know that your uterus takes a year for it to go back to normal and all these things. And I'm like, I can't even like sit without being in pain. Like, there's no way that I can look like that. And it was very toxic because I was very upset that I did not look like her.
Yeah.
So,
Where did you when did you learn that the uterus doesn't contract for like a full year? Because I'd never heard that. So that's like that gives me some hope right now.
Yeah.
so I don't know if it's a fact, but I took and actually this helped me a little bit too. I took a postpartum class through a program called Moms Orange County, and it's free. And I'm not just like saying this to promote them, but it's very helpful. It was a free class and they talked about your body and like all the body changes you're gonna have. And I mean, I still struggled with it, but the class did kind of help me a little bit because I was like, okay, this is normal. It sucks, but it's normal. And they kind of like showed me how your uterus goes back to normal, all that stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
I
the
recommend
uterus.
everybody who has never been pregnant take that class because it really does. Like, they talk about things that you had no idea were a thing.
Yeah, literally had no idea.
Yeah. So
now, are there things that you do or try and like limit your time on social media, or when you catch yourself doing the comparison game or just in your head, like things that you do to stop yourself? Or
I go through phases. I read like self-help books and things like that, and then it's kind of like an addiction. It's like you read, you try to think positive, and then you fall back into it again, and you're like, like I've had so many thoughts of like like changing things about myself that I don't need to change. And but I guess it's just knowing that there's something, that isn't wrong with you, that's wrong with you. Just acknowledging that, I have, body dysmorphia. And but I do struggle with it still, and I probably will. I don't know. It helps a lot being a mom too. I feel like it's not as bad as it was. Like, I feel like he I have so much focus on just him that I don't really, I mean, I obviously still try and take care of myself. I try and get ready every day, and that helps. Feeling good about yourself helps. But I feel like I'm not like scrolling as much or like just thinking about what everyone else is doing anymore because I'm so focused in on him and my family and my husband and like trying to better our family that I'm not like, trying to, which it helps to be busy.
Yeah,
So,
I agree. I don't know if you guys feel this way, but I feel like motherhood and even parenthood, so even talking to like the dads, like it's can be very healing
mhm,
because it can reveal a lot of stuff and heighten things.
yeah,
But then if you take the time to actually address it, it's
Yeah.
almost like you have a greater purpose to then work on those things because you
100%.
don't want to pass them off to your children. You don't want to
Mhm.
have you like I almost feel like guilty having negative thoughts about myself because if I'm speaking that to myself, are they hearing that and then are they going to internalize that? So do you
Yeah.
guys
Yes,
what's like your both
a
of your journeys
hundred
on that?
percent. Okay, I
So
guess
for me,
you go.
I can. So I have Rue, a little girl, and so when I was pregnant and like would have the thoughts of, oh, I don't feel pretty, like I feel huge, all that kind of stuff. I like told myself like when there's no more of this. Like I would never want her to hear me say this to myself and then her say it to herself one day because it's so easy to get caught up in social media and all of that. And I know like I talked to my sister-in-law about this and she has friends, she's older, so she has friends that have kids in high school. And one of the moms is like so hard on herself and now her daughters are starting to be that way.
Yeah,
And so for me, it was kind of like a slap in the face. Like, I'm not going to do this because I don't want my daughter to do this. So
Yeah,
that's,
I even stopped using filters
yeah.
on Instagram and TikTok. Like as much as like I'm like sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't have any makeup on. Like I just need something to look alive. I'm like, but how does that escalate to then she thinks she needs to look a certain way all the time when like she can just be beautiful as she is?
Right.
and you know
And it's
what? I'm very grateful that I'm friends with Yori because I'm so used to, um, I guess different friendships. Like I love that you're sharing this and being honest because you know my friends before motherhood, it was like all about. I mean, not all of them. I love my friends. I'm just saying I had some friends that were like all about looks and things like that, and so you feel like okay, that's how I have to be. But now, like listening to you talk and listening to you, Savannah, it's like it's so true. And once you become a mother,
Mm-hmm.
things that mattered to you don't matter anymore. You kind of like get these I mean you get these like eye-opening experiences where you're like the little things really don't matter anymore. It's like you want to be a better person for your child. You don't want to have negative thoughts because it would hurt to think that they would have these negative thoughts too. And
mm-hmm,
I mean, it's I guess I mean no one's perfect, but I've come to realize that I have become a better person and I mean every day I fight with my negative thoughts and like my negative feelings because of him. Because I don't want to be I just want to be a good person for my son because I want him to be a good person too. So,
mm-hmm,
and a happy person.
mm-hmm. Yeah, it's motherhood like reprioritizes things in your life.
Oh yeah.
Like the things that you thought were important or like took a ton of headspace, like it could potentially still continue to do that after having them. But once like you become like aware of like, is this something I want to pass down? Like, is
Mm-hmm.
this something I want them to internalize? It like really shakes you up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like you can either like make that change or like you put them at risk for internalizing that. And I think I also want to be careful because that there are things that we should still focus on as individuals and like not put things to the side just so like we can like raise our children. I think like being an example to them is like so powerful, but I think the conversation that we're having right now is like the negative thoughts and like the like self-doubt and the looking in the mirror and what do we tell ourselves. I really want to work with our kids on like looking in the mirror when they can start speaking and like speaking affirmations into
Being
them
confident.
and like and just understanding that like I just want to be that like influence in them. Like I want to be the strongest influence so that their lives are going to look, their childhood is going to look completely different than our childhood because there's so many different things available now. So like how can we still be the like primary influencer in their life?
I think a lot of it too has to do with who you surround yourself with as well. So like if you're having really strong friendships that all have the same beliefs, you know, your kids are going to most likely think the same way. But if you have friendships or family members that aren't confident and, you know, prioritize things that really aren't important, they're going to feel the same way. So I think, they're influencers are real life people, they're family members and friends.
Yeah. You start to like really put into perspective like the saying that the 5 people that you hang out with the most are a reflection of who you will become.
Yeah.
And that's really powerful.
Yeah.
Okay, to wrap this episode up, what is a word of advice that you would share to a mama who's just found out she's pregnant and is experiencing all the body changes and maybe starting to have those negative thoughts? What is a word of encouragement for her?
It does get better. And it is worth it. And it's normal. And it sounds cheesy, but it is going to be okay. And I would say that when you're holding your baby, you're probably going to have that moment and you're going to be like, this was all worth it for sure. And it was meant to be.
It's a pretty magical moment when you hold those babies for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
And it doesn't mean that you have to have like those intense emotions that day, like those emotions grow, but like when you finally get to meet them earthside, you're like, whoa, like you were like moving in my belly last night.
Yeah, especially I think it actually wasn't that day because I was still like super out of it from my C-section, but when I was holding him and I was like mentally there, I was like, this is pretty awesome. And I remember like walking up to go shower and like feeling like everything was kind of like falling out of my body because of my C-section. And then turning back and looking at him in his little bed and being like, oh my gosh, this is worth it. The pain, the stress, the depression, like it's totally worth it. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your story.
And for being so vulnerable.
Yeah, I know it's not easy, but I know that you're also making an impact. So I appreciate you.
Well, thank you for having me.
Can you plug your socials, and you can plug Geneva and Newport if you'd like.
Okay. So the plug for Geneva is momwalkco.geneva IL. And the Newport one is momwalk.co or momwalkco.newport.
And then your personal, if people wanted to reach out to you.
My personal is Karen Alex. And there's actually something else that I want to say about my personal Instagram. So I feel like I'm kind of trying to rebrand myself because I guess like before, you know, I was all about like body image and all that stuff, and now I kind of want to switch to what I'm really like. And I feel like a lot of people that have social media, they post things that aren't like really, I mean, it's not what they're really like in when you meet them in real I can't do that one again.
It's a facade.
Yeah, it's a facade.
They want to show.
There's more depth to me than like my Instagram, but if you want to talk to me, you can totally message me on there.
Yes. Yes. You are beautiful. You are kind. You are sweet. You are an amazing mom to Banks. You're an amazing wife. You're an amazing friend. And I am so honored to know you. And thank you so much for sharing your story. If you're listening and you're like, I need a friend like Karen, or I need a friend like Savannah, and you haven't attended any of our walks, go to the momwalkcollective.com and go to our walk finder, type in your zip code, find a walk near you. And if we don't have a walk near you, then we have an ambassador application page where you can apply to be an ambassador in your city. We get back to applicants every first of the month, and then we'll start an onboarding process with you. If you are local to the Orange County area, we are having a mother's market April 22nd. It's not just your average farmer's market. It is going to be an interactive market where we're going to have really cool brands like an outdoor stroller. Well, all strollers are outdoor. But an adventure stroller where they're going to have like an off-roading course. We're going to have a diaper company where you're going to be able to change your baby's diaper, feel their diaper. You're going to have a formula company that's very clean, all organic, and we're going to have just activities for the children. So it's a family affair. Come on out. It's at Freelance Coffee Project in Newport Beach, April 22nd from 9 to 12. It's on our Instagram. Go take a look at it. And then the cringe. Normally we leave this for Jamie to do, but tonight I've got this. We want this podcast to really reach people and really be able to bring resources to the moms of our community and to the moms that haven't reached our community yet. And so to do that, if you could subscribe wherever you listen to our podcast, like, comment, all the above, that would help us a ton. So we really appreciate it. Savannah, do you want to close us out?
Yeah. We love you, Mama, and we thank you for being on the podcast, Karen, and we'll talk soon. Love you,
Love
Mamas.
you, Mama.